welcome to the Rooted in Health and Wellness podcast with your host, Heather Harris and Stacy Richards. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 015. It is just me today. Stacy's going to join me whenever she can. Right now, she's been feeling very overwhelmed the last few weeks with getting started back as a teacher at Ottawa Hills, and she's also teaching classes at Orange Theory, as you probably know, and she also leads worship at her church, and she has 2 kids, and so she's been super busy getting back into the swing of things, and so I don't want her to be overwhelmed, so I definitely said just join me when you can, and I appreciate when she can be here and we can go back and forth. I like that, but for right now, it's going to be just me. And honestly, it's been a minute since I've even recorded a podcast or video of any kind. I needed a break myself. Things have been really, really busy, and I'm just trying to keep up. And between my kids, again, getting back to school and getting them back into their routine, and clients, and my mom, and taking care of her, and then had some things happen at my house, and so just been really busy, and I needed a break from a lot of things, in fact, and so I took a week or 2 of just really kind of resting more and just getting my mind in a better place too, getting off of social media and just stepping back from things for a short time, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I encourage people to do that when they feel like they need to, and my body was definitely saying that it needed a break, and I know enough now that if I keep pushing through that, which I've done in the past, the old me would have done that, to just keep pushing through and keep going, that I would have really either injured myself seriously or just really gotten myself kind of down and sick. And so I know enough now that when I see those signs happening, and I was starting to see my body was feeling super fatigued. I was starting to feel sore and achy place everywhere. And so I knew enough to, I need to step back from things. I need to lighten up on my exercise and really just nourish my body with good food and get more sleep and rest. And that's exactly what I've done. And so I'm better when, the thing that I encourage people to do is when you take a step back like that, again, it feels sometimes like you're being lazy. I know for me, that's a struggle. In fact, last weekend, I just took the whole weekend and just really rested and laid around and read books and meditated and did all those kind of things. And it was so nice. But there was definitely in my head, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you need to be doing more, you're lazy. And so I have to fight that, that voice in my head that's telling me that. And I definitely benefited from taking the weekend and just relaxing and resting. I felt so much better. And you know what? I'm better as a mom. I'm better for my clients when I can come in with a clear head and feel good myself. And if I don't practice what I'm preaching to others, well then, people are probably going to less take my advice if again, I'm not doing it myself. So I think that's super important with any kind of healthcare provider that you're going to. If you go to them and you're like, they're telling me how to eat and exercise, and yet they don't really look like they're taking care of themselves, you might want to think about looking into another healthcare provider. Again, so I think it's really important to practice what we preach, and I really try to do that. And interestingly enough, I'm going to be talking about sleep today. It has been really kind of at the top of my, thoughts and mind lately because over the last couple of weeks, because a lot of things have been going on and it's been more stressful, I haven't gotten the usual amount of sleep that I require and that I need. And I definitely notice a difference then in my day-to-day interactions with others and just how I feel. My body really requires 8 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, I think that everybody would benefit from getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. like I said, I feel like my body needs a little bit more. When you are someone that, if you identify like me as someone that is, probably a little bit more in fight or flight, like go, 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 very driven, type A personality kind of person, those kind of people tend to need a little bit more sleep than others. It's interesting because I'll have clients say to me a lot of times who, when I look at their sleep, they're getting 5, 6 hours, and they're like, well, I've just done that all my life. Like, that's just, I'm fine. I tend to disagree. We may think that we're okay, that we're, well, this is just what I've always done. This is what, my body, is fine on 5 to 6 hours of sleep. I don't know. I think it shows up in ways that you're not really recognizing, though. You may feel like you're functioning okay throughout the day, but then when I start to ask them questions, about like they're able to focus or think clearly, without brain fog, or their weight, they're struggling to lose weight, or they, are eating more in the afternoon, that 2 to 3, 4 o'clock time, they're eating more, they're feeling maybe, more run down or getting sick more, or having more, aches and pains. Those are all indications, again, that you're still not getting enough sleep. Again, you may think that you're functioning fine, but yet your body's still trying to say, like, no, we need more sleep. And so it is a difficult thing for people to break that kind of cycle of, maybe staying up late and then getting up early, or whatever, the pattern is. But I try to work with people on how we can get them to slowly increase the amount of sleep that they're getting. This has also been really a big thing because, over the summer, when my kids were out of school, we all kind of stayed up a little bit later, and we were able to, get up a little bit later in the morning, though. And, which is really nice. The sun is out more in the summer. It's, it doesn't get dark till later. And so it's natural that you want to stay up more. And again, I let my kids stay up a little bit later, but we always kind of slept in more. That's the one thing I miss so much about summer now, is that the mornings were just so nice and relaxed. I don't know if other parents out there can feel me, but it was just so nice and relaxed in the morning, not rushed. We could, again, sleep in and just have nice, calm, easygoing mornings, where now with school, I'm getting up earlier to try to get in my exercise. My kids are getting up earlier, and then we're rushing in the morning to get breakfast and get them to school. And so it's just a little bit more hectic. But I really, an important thing to me is that my kids get enough sleep. And really, research shows that kids should get even more than 7 to 8 hours of sleep, especially depending on their age. The younger they are, the more sleep that they need. And I am really big on bedtimes. Again, you may not agree with me as a parent. You may not, have a bedtime. And again, everybody is allowed to have their own opinion on it. But I am huge on bedtimes. I've always been since the day that I adopted them. And still, I have now a 9 and a 14-year-old, and they still have very appropriate bedtimes, I think. I don't let them stay up late. Because I notice a difference when they get a good amount of sleep. And for them, I like to see them get 9, 10, 11 hours even of sleep, especially my 9-year-old. He definitely needs it. Now, again, everybody is different. My youngest, my 9-year-old, has a heart condition, and so he needs more rest and he needs more sleep. And so I make sure that he tries, I make sure to try to get him. Again, I can't force him to sleep, but I really try to get him in bed at a decent time for him to wind down and be able to get to sleep so that he can get like 11 hours. But I noticed such a difference, like in the summer when I was letting them stay up, more, that even though we were sleeping in more too, they were still more tired during the day. And then it was, I tried to really, a couple of weeks before school, start to get them back into their normal school bedtime routine, which means going to bed earlier because they're getting up earlier, and I still want to make sure that they get enough sleep. So sleep has been a huge thing lately for me and my kids, and again, a super important topic that I think doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, it is in functional holistic medicine, it is being talked about more, But just in day-to-day conventional medicine, when you go to meet your doctor, they don't really talk to you about, are you getting enough sleep? But let me tell you that when you don't get enough sleep, it affects you in so many ways, and I'm going to talk about the different ways. But it is a time, the biggest thing is it is a time when your body is recovering from the day and it's healing. It is a time for rest and recovery. It's when we start to repair our body, or our tissues repair. It's the time for muscle growth. So, if you're out lifting weights and you're trying to get stronger, but yet you're not giving your body enough time to rest and recover and get enough sleep, then your muscle growth is still going to be inhibited. So you want to make sure, again, a lot of times people will come to me and they may be eating a good diet and they may be exercising, but then they're still struggling. And sleep, a lot of times, is a big one. I very rarely, when I have people fill out my assessment form, very rarely see people that are actually getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And 7 to 8 hours uninterrupted sleep, that's even a big one. I definitely have been going through, and again, when you start having hormonal changes, it is a big disruption. Your sleep gets disrupted a lot by hormonal changes. And so it's even more important for me to really work on my sleep and my sleep hygiene so that I can, again, get enough sleep so my body rests and recover, but also for hormones as well, for hormone balance, because that's when we sleep, that's when we release our growth hormones, which growth hormones are important to help keeping us youthful. It's one of those anti-aging things. So don't discount or overlook your sleep, because it is important, again, for so many things. It's when we are going all day and there's so much wear and tear really on our body throughout the day, it's so important then to have that, at least 7 to 8 hours of time at night for our body to just restore and recover. It is a time of healing in so many ways, and so important to work on that. It is also a time when our immune system is able to, again, strengthen. It strengthens our immune system when we get enough sleep. So again, think about it. If you're getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep at night, like, your body is just, it takes a while to actually wind down, but it's not giving it enough time to actually recover, to heal, and for your immune system to work properly. That is a real time that the immune system gets strengthened and it fights off infections and illnesses. So super important, again, to get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. It also plays an important role in our memory. So when we don't get enough sleep at night, it can really affect our short-term and long-term memory, because again, it's a time for our brain to shut down, to relax, and that's a time when we kind of consolidate and organize our memories from the day. It's very interesting if you do research on it, but again, why it's important, and I'm going to say this probably several times, but why it's important to get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So we've talked about recovery and healing, that physical health and our immune system, but also it's cognitive function. It's when, again, we are consolidating and organizing our memories from the day, and it helps us, when you think about it, when you don't get enough sleep, how well are you thinking throughout the day? I know for me, like over the past, like I said, 2 weeks, I've struggled to get 6 hours of sleep a night. Now, some of you may think, oh my gosh, I wish I could get 6 hours. But again, for me, everybody's different. Everybody's body's different. For me, I know that I don't function well on 6 hours of sleep. I don't think clearly. I struggle to make decisions, which is another thing, with the cognitive function, is that learning and problem solving. You really struggle to make decisions and to solve problems when you aren't getting enough sleep. It just makes it harder to think clear. So another reason to get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It's also important for our emotional well-being and regulation. When we don't get enough sleep, we tend to be more irritable and we have more mood swings. And stress it seems all heightened. So the littlest thing can set us off. I mean, has that happened to you? My gosh, the last 2 weeks, that has been me. Like, just the littlest things are setting me off. And my body then is even going more into fight or flight, which I don't need it to be. And so if you're feeling, really stressed out, or like, just like in fight or flight, you can't think clearly, you're, more irritable, and you just aren't even being able to handle stressful situations. Again, look at how much sleep are you getting, or, are you getting good quality sleep? It's very interesting too, because sleep also can increase the risk of developing mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and even bipolar disorder, which again makes sense. If you aren't getting enough sleep and your body and your brain aren't having time to heal and recover, well then you can be more anxious and depressed. It absolutely makes sense as well. And then we also tend to not be, like, if you've been following along in the podcast, and we've been talking a lot about exercise and the benefits of exercise, and I've been really trying to encourage people to get out and move more and get in the gym and lift weights at home. But if you are on that path, you are not, but yet you're still not getting enough sleep, then that's really going to affect your physical performance and in lifting weights or exercising, and it's going to affect your coordination and even your reaction times. So it's also really going to increase the level of injuries, and I have noticed that as well. That's been a big one. In fact, just saying that it's really triggered me to think about it more, because the last couple of weeks, even before the last couple of weeks, I told you guys, it's been a few months now, I kind of got back into the gym, and I've been pushing myself harder, definitely, really working on building muscle. And I noticed, though, because again, I was only getting like 6 hours of sleep, and some nights even a little bit less, that all of a sudden my body was hurting more, and I was getting more injuries. And nothing, luckily, knock on wood, nothing major, but definitely just pulling things more strains and sprains. And so it is all, like, again, made me, hence why I took, a step back over the last couple of weeks to really focus on rest and sleep, nutrition, backed off my exercise, but because I don't want to get any serious injuries. Lately it seems like everybody around me is getting like injuries of some sort, knees or shoulders or hips, and so it makes me nervous as I get older. I just want to prevent that from happening. So I'm doing everything I can, including getting more sleep and rest. And then also, sleep plays a role in maintaining our blood pressure, healthy levels of blood pressure, and reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and strokes. So again, if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting enough time to recoup and recover and heal. And so that's also going to cause that blood pressure to be up, which again, we do not want. But another big one for people, again, as I kind of mentioned before, is if they're struggling to lose weight. And a lot of times they, just look at diet and exercise. Those are the two biggies that most people look at, but they don't ever consider that maybe it's because they're not getting enough sleep. And sleep influences the hormones that regulate our appetite, ghrelin and leptin. And so poor sleep can disrupt the balance of these hormones and increase cravings and overeating. I don't know about you, but that has also happened to me. I notice that when I don't get enough sleep, I tend to crave more, like sugary foods, and I just tend to eat more. And so now that I've been, working on getting back to getting 8 hours of sleep at least, I notice that it's been, just doing that one thing, I've noticed such a difference in how much I'm eating. And I don't tend to have the cravings, or I'm not overeating. It's been a huge game changer, actually. And so I really, encourage people who are struggling with their weight to look at their sleep. And if you're not sleeping well, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but we're going to talk about, sleep hygiene and how to work at getting more sleep. But if you're not sleeping well, that's definitely something that I would look at if you're struggling to lose weight. And it kind of mentioned this before, but sleep is involved in the regulation of various hormones, including those related to stress, growth, and metabolism. And disrupted sleep can lead to hormonal imbalances. So that's talking a lot about like the ghrelin, leptin again, but cortisol and your melatonin levels as well. So when we don't get enough sleep, our cortisol levels tend to go up. Now, cortisol gets a bad rap, and we're going to talk all about cortisol in another podcast. That's a whole podcast on its own. But when cortisol levels tend to get too high, again, that's when we tend to, it's kind of known that you get more of that belly fat around the middle. And so it's important that you are getting enough sleep to keep those cortisol levels, healthy and good, as well as growth hormone. Again, that's that kind of anti-aging youth hormone. We want to keep that at high levels as long as we can, because it slowly decreases as we age anyway. And so if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to be getting enough growth hormone as well. So right there, to me, to keep you feeling younger and feeling better, you want to get enough sleep so that you can keep those growth hormones up. And then sleep deprivation also impairs our alertness, our attention, our reaction times. There's a lot of increased research showing that increased risk of accidents happen when people don't get enough sleep. And I'm talking accidents with, driving, but also just in day to day, like, we trip more, we fall more because we're not thinking clearly, or our reaction time isn't there because, again, we didn't get enough sleep. And then lastly, sleep is super important. That to get enough adequate and good quality sleep is associated with longer lifespan. So chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to a higher risk of premature mortality. So right there, again, all of these to me are super important. That I would, listening to any of those, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I really want to make sure I get more sleep. My gosh, it's an easy thing to do, really. It's a free thing to do that, I look forward to going to bed at night. I look forward to that at the end of the day, and just laying there relaxing, my body, and it's, I just treasure my sleep anymore because I know how much it affects me when I don't get enough. And all of these things that I've just talked about are ways that it can affect us. And so just for a longer lifespan alone, that to me right there is a perfect reason why I would want to get more sleep. So the next thing that I want to talk about when it comes to sleep is then, how can we get more sleep? How can we work on our sleep hygiene? How can we make our environment more adept to sleep? Okay. Now, what I would say, one thing that I'm going to say off the bat is that if you are like, I stay up till 11 or midnight, Heather, every night. It's just always the way I've done. I get the kids to bed. I hear this a lot, so I'm just saying this because I do hear it a lot that, I get the kids to bed, and that's then my time, or my time with my spouse, and, we want to stay up and watch something. That's when snacks tend to come out, and we want to watch something, or I want to do some work, or, I'm doing stuff around the house. I got to get stuff done, because I didn't have time when the kids were, up. So, and I get it. Again, as a mom of two, I get that. Like, when my kids get to bed, that's kind of my downtime. But I've really worked at, once I get them to bed, I may take about an hour, to myself then to do the things that, I need to do, whether it's cleaning up from the day, or just relaxing and resting and winding down and reading a book, or, watching a little something. I get that, but I still think it's important to get, to try working on getting yourself in bed at a decent time. We have this natural thing called a circadian rhythm, okay? And we want to make sure that we're following that circadian rhythm. That's our sleep-wake cycle. And it's been said that it's important that we get up when the sun comes up, and we go to bed when the sun comes down. That's kind of our natural circadian rhythm. And I know in the summer that's hard, that's difficult, because, it may not get dark till 10 o'clock at night. But, working on that is super important to start to get that circadian rhythm, good and in flow. And it, again, because it can affect so many things like we've talked about it. And so I encourage people that if they're staying up till like 11 or midnight or even later, just if you start moving that time back, that you go to bed like 15 minutes. So if you're going, to bed usually at midnight, try going to bed at 11:45 the next night and do that for a while, just 15 minutes. And then once you've kind of established that routine, then maybe you move it to 11:30. And you just keep doing that until you get to bed, at a more decent time. I try to get to bed between 9 and 9:30. Doesn't always happen, but I definitely am in bed by 10 o'clock at night. There's a lot of research that shows that past 10 o'clock, all of a sudden you get that second wind, and I know that definitely happens to me, that if I start to stay up after 10, all of a sudden everybody's like, well, I feel fine, I can stay up till 11 or midnight, because that is kind of when we get that second wind. So it's super important to try to get into bed really by 10 o'clock. Again, that's that circadian rhythm. That's when our body wants us to start relaxing and resting and winding down. And so even again, if you get into bed and you at least get your environment right, and we're going to talk about that, but then, maybe you just rest in bed and read a book or something that can help you to kind of start to at least wind down. Maybe you meditate at night, or you pray, or how you get yourself into some routine. Maybe you listen to some calming music to help you wind down. But just getting yourself into that routine of that I'm going to get into bed by 10 o'clock, even if I'm not tired, and then I'm going to at least do something. You start to at least set that up and get your body, ready and sane, and your body then starts to recognize, like, okay, we're winding down now here, we're resting. And over time, hopefully, that will help you then to, get in bed and get to sleep by 10 o'clock. So maintaining a consistent sleep schedule is super important. I know it's not going to happen all of the time. Maybe on the weekends you do stay up a little bit later. But during the week even, trying to get yourself on a consistent schedule of I'm going to be in bed by, 10 o'clock. Is really helpful. So you go to bed and you wake up at the same time every day, and even on the weekends if you can. But this helps to regulate your body's internal clock. Again, that circadian rhythm, that internal clock. So it makes it easier then to fall asleep and wake up naturally. And creating a relaxing bedtime routine is, again, something that I really work on. I have my own things that I like to do, but for sometimes it's, like I said, reading a book. Maybe you take a warm bath with Epsom salts to help you calm your body down, or you practice, some relaxation techniques like meditation or breathing. But doing something like that, like music, kind of some of those things that I start to, I always ready, especially now as we're going into the fall here, I turn a lot of the lights off. We don't have a lot of lights on in the house. We just like candles. I have salt lamps that I love, that red amber glow or orange amber glow to it. And we have a lot of salt lamps in the house. And, my kids even have a salt lamp in their room. We don't have bright lights or anything, so that we turn those on at night. And it just immediately helps to kind of soften the whole mood and help everybody to relax. We really limit the exposure to screens at night, to TV, to our iPads or iPhones, to our laptops, really trying to limit that. That blue light that's emitted by the screens can really interfere with the production of the sleep hormone melatonin. So melatonin, again, is that natural hormone that we have, that we produce, that helps us to fall asleep. And that blue light, when you are looking at screens all the time, it can really interfere with that production of our own melatonin. So we try to turn the screens off at least an hour before bed. I would like to do 2 hours, but we do at least an hour before bed. And if, by chance, like we're watching, and even on the weekends, if we're watching screens, like I do have those blue light blocking glasses now that I try to use if I'm staying up to like watch a movie or something on the weekends. But for the most part, we don't watch a lot of screens or TV or anything at least an hour before bed. And then I really try to, again, create a comfortable sleep environment in my room and for my kids as well. And that means keeping the room cool. Lately, it's been so nice if you're here in Toledo, Ohio, and this is the end of August, and it's going to be heating back up here, but it has been so nice in the mornings and in the evenings. It's been getting much cooler, 60s, 50s even. And so it's nice to have the windows open and the fresh air. I love that. But keeping the room dark, like I said, we don't have a lot of lights on. If anything, it's the salt lamps or candles. But we keep it dark, we keep it quiet, and we keep it at a cooler temperature. It's been shown in research that the cooler temperatures do help you sleep better as well. So there's a lot of times I go to bed and I'm actually really cold, and I'll start off with a bunch of blankets and stuff, but then I definitely sleep better when I'm cooler. So sometimes, you can even get blackout curtains, if you've got windows, earplugs, a lot of times people will use, or, a mask for over their eyes to keep it really dark. White noise machine, like I have one even in my office, and we have some at home, but the white noise machine, just having that kind of white noise to block out any other noise, like if you're living in somewhere where it's busy and there's a lot of cars going by or sirens or anything, doing anything you can to help keep it extremely quiet, to keep it relaxed, again, dark and cool. That will really create a good sleep environment. If you're going to bed and you're immediately watching TV, and again, you can do what you want. We don't have TVs in our bedrooms, but if you're going to bed and you're just watching TV, that's a lot of times, again, not only the blue light, but it's going to keep you more active and your brain more active, and it's going to be harder to calm down and relax and sleep. Everybody's different. Maybe watching something in bed does help you fall asleep. I don't know. Everybody's different. But I would say that, more times than not, it can make you kind of ramp up, especially depending on what you're watching. But trying to sleep and trying to, here's what I'm going to say about naps. A lot of times we talk about limiting naps during the day so that you can get a good night's sleep at night. But if you are struggling to sleep at night, then I would say try to take a nap during the day. So at least you can maybe, again, give your body rest throughout the day or in the daytime. And, again, let your body rest and recover. And I'll be honest, I have been taking breaks in the afternoon, even when I'm getting enough sleep, but I've been taking breaks in the afternoon to meditate, and there will be times when I actually fall asleep. And it's only usually about 20 minutes, but it's so beneficial for me, at least, to have that time to kind of, again, just relax and recover and rest. And I notice, again, I feel just like, especially if I do it, like I usually try to, if I have time, depending on my work schedule and stuff, after lunch, before I go pick up my kids from school, I try to do it. And it just, I don't know, it's just a perfect time for me, again, to relax and rest and get myself ready and prepared for the rest of the day. Especially, once I pick up my kids, it's like go, go, go again. So if you're struggling to sleep at night, you might want to, if you're napping during the day and that's why maybe it's affecting your sleep, then limit the naps. But if you are not getting enough sleep at night, then I would say try taking a nap during the day to give yourself time to rest and recover. Also be mindful of what you're eating and drinking before you go to bed, and not eating or drinking too close to bedtime. So there's a rule that I have, or a formula, it's called the 3-2-1 formula. And so I try to get people to not eat 3 hours before bed, not drink any liquids 2 hours before bed, and then no screens, no blue light or screens 1 hour before bed. So I think that, that even sums everything up that we're talking about. If you can keep that 3-2-1 formula in your head, and again, stop eating 3 hours before bed, because when we eat too much before bed or too close to bedtime, that absolutely affects your sleep, and it disrupts your sleep, because more of your body's energy is going towards digestion, and it's working on then digestion, and it's taking away from your body than just taking away from your body recovering and again resting and healing and sleep. So you want to avoid eating, if you can, 3 hours before bed, so that again you can make sure that you get enough sleep. And something else is that that's what a lot of times people will have indigestion then or acid reflux, because if they eat, I had a client just the other day, in fact I'm thinking about that, he was eating like right up until bedtime. He was snacking at night right up until bedtime, but then he'd go to bed and have indigestion or acid reflux, and he'd try, propping his pillows up and, keeping himself more at an incline. But I'm like, if, I just got him to stop eating, and actually he stopped eating at 7 because he was usually going to bed at 11. So we got him to stop to eat at 7, and he has noticed such a big difference. And it's been really interesting because just making that one change with him, he is sleeping better, he's not having acid reflux or indigestion, and his weight has gone down as well. So there's multi-benefits to stopping eating, at a decent time or 3 hours before bed. Something else that helps with sleep, though, too, is that if you're just getting some regular physical activity throughout the day, each day, so, spending time, outside or in walking, exercising of any kind, lifting weights like we've talked about so much. Exercise, though, helps promote better sleep. And but let me say this, if you're exercising like right before bed, especially intense exercise too close to bedtime, that can have the opposite effect. It can make it more difficult for you to fall asleep. So I love, it's not for everybody again, but I love exercising in the morning. And there has been a lot of research showing that when you exercise in the morning, it actually helps you sleep better that night. So again, we want to get out, we want to exercise, we want to move our bodies in however you want and however you feel comfortable and what is most enjoyable to you and what you're going to do, like we've talked on previous podcasts. But again, not exercising too close to bed, because that could have the opposite effect and keep you up more. Limit liquid intake before bed, like I talked about in that formula. 2 hours before bed, you want to try to limit your consumption of any liquids, especially caffeine. We really want to try to stay away from caffeine before we go to bed, because again, that is definitely going to not help you sleep. It's going to help keep you up more. And also just limiting liquids is going to decrease the likelihood of you getting up and going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And I'm going to talk probably in another podcast. This gives me another idea of just reasons that we get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. I can't tell you how many people say to me, well, no, I sleep 8 hours and stuff, but I definitely get up, at 2 or 3 in the morning to go to the bathroom. Now, it could be because of this, that you're just drinking too many liquids right up to bed, and maybe then you just have to go. But there's other reasons as well to do with your cortisol and your melatonin. But we'll talk about that in another podcast as well. Some other things, though, to help you sleep better would be just practicing any kind of stress reduction techniques. We've talked about a lot of this, mindfulness, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation. Maybe you just start to, tell yourself, like when you're laying there, you work on tightening your muscles from your feet all the way up to your head, and you tighten them all up, and then you just relax and you let everything go. That kind of progressive muscle, tightening and relaxing is really helpful, again, to help calm your mind and your body right before bed. And like I said, I love meditation. Listening to a meditation for me is really helpful, and I had a guided one. There's a lot of sleep meditations to help lull you into sleep. And then something else, though, that's really important, and there's been a lot of research lately on, is getting natural light first thing in the morning or during the day, but first thing in the morning especially, exposing yourself in your eyes and getting that natural light in the morning or during the day. That actually helps regulate your body's circadian rhythm, that sleep-wake cycle again, and it improves it. So it sounds kind of, interesting or different, but you getting out and getting some natural sunlight will help you to sleep better and regulate your sleep-wake cycle. And then also is really, if you find yourself checking the time during the night and maybe you consider removing the clock, from your view. Worrying about the time can increase stress and anxiety and make it harder to fall asleep. I mean, how many times do you do that? You have your alarm clock right by your bed and you're like struggling to sleep and you keep looking at it and you're like, I should be asleep by now. I should be asleep by now. Oh my gosh, I gotta fall asleep. And that only makes you more anxious and probably find it more difficult to fall asleep. So I actually don't keep an alarm clock by my bed. In fact, I just purchased off of Amazon one of those, and I can't even think of the name of it right now, but it's an alarm clock where it's a light, and it's like sunlight, and it just slowly comes on in the morning, and it lights up, and it makes this just kind of chirping bird noise, and it's very calming and relaxing, and super nice. It doesn't like jolt you up. I'm talking about the alarm. This is something different, but I'm talking about an alarm when you get up in the morning now. But anyway, that helps you wake up nice and relaxed. But at night, I don't keep, like I said, anything by my bed. I don't keep my phone by my bed anything that's got EMFs, electromagnetic fields to it, anything like that, I don't keep by my bed as well, because I do believe that can affect your sleep as well. And again, EMFs we'll talk about in a whole other podcast as well. So lots of future podcasts coming up. So I hope you stay tuned. But again, maybe not keeping that clock by you where you're constantly watching it like I need to be asleep. I think that's super important as well. And then, if you're really struggling to sleep still after doing all these things, after making your room cooler and darker and, not eating 3 hours before bed and not drinking liquids 2 hours before bed and not watching anything or any screens 1 hour before bed, and you're getting exercise during the day and you're exposing yourself to natural light, and you're like, Heather, I'm doing all the things and I'm still struggling with sleep. Well, then maybe you need to seek some help out, and maybe you need, definitely contact me. I can help you, but maybe there's something else going on under the hood that we need to look at of why you're not sleeping well. And that it could be a lot of things. It could be hormone imbalances that we need to look at. It could be your blood sugar. It could be thyroid. It could be so many things. So definitely, seek out your doctor, or, seek out someone that could definitely help you with that. I would say, to me, I would seek out someone like a functional medicine practitioner, and I only say that because a lot of times if you go to your doctor and you're like, I'm not sleeping, they're just going to give you a sleep aid. And that's not getting to the root cause of it. That's just, here, take this and, try to get some sleep. And sometimes those can make you feel worse. A lot of times people will feel like super groggy the next day, or feel like, they just can't come out of the sleep even. So again, that's not fixing the issue. So we want to try to get to the root cause of why you're not sleeping, and then try to fix that and see if that helps. Now, with saying that, I mean, there are some good supplements. If I've got someone that is, got a lot going on, and sleep is one of them, they're not getting enough sleep, and we're working on some other things too, we're working on the root cause, I may say, like, here, let's try, like, magnesium is a great one. Magnesium glycinate, in fact, is an excellent one for sleep and rest and recovery. So we may say, look, hey, let's throw that in there and try it to see if at least it helps you to get the sleep that you need for right now until we figure out that root cause. And magnesium, my gosh, it is so important for like 300 processes in the body. It does so many good things. So it's not something that I tend to be worried about someone taking. Again, I tend to not give supplements unless I test. I have the motto, test, don't guess. So I don't just willy-nilly give supplements to people, because too many times I've seen people on a boatload of supplements and they've never been tested, but a practitioner just said, oh, you need this and you need this and you need this. And they've spent thousands of dollars and yet they're still not feeling well. So I don't like to do that. But there are some supplements that maybe we'll try to get them to help them to sleep until we again figure out what's going on. If it's their hormones, if it's blood sugar, if it's thyroid, if it's something else like that. Digestion can also affect sleep if they're having digestive issues. So we'll try to figure all those things out, but we may try like something like a magnesium and magnesium glycinate in particular And I should say here, I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not here to treat or, cure or prevent disease. I am just here giving out some, trying to educate you on things that could help you. And, especially getting those basics down of exercise, diet, sleep, stress, working on those kind of things first, and then looking at any lab work that we need to look at, and supplements then to do just that, supplement an already good diet, okay? And we do that through testing, though. We supplement with things that we know you need because we've tested to see what you need. But getting back to that, magnesium can be very helpful for people to sleep at night and help them to just lower the anxiety and stress. And so if that helps, great, okay? And at least then we can get them to sleep more while we're figuring out why they're not sleeping more. A lot of times melatonin, people will try melatonin. And melatonin is a hormone that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. It is a hormone that we have that we naturally make. You can take that. There's good and bad about taking melatonin, and I'm going to leave that again for a whole nother podcast because there's a lot to unpack even with melatonin. But, it doesn't work for everybody, that's for sure. A lot of times people will say, like, I can fall asleep good, but I don't stay asleep. And there's also people that definitely wake up with melatonin feeling groggy or not good, and I tend to be one of those. But again, we'll talk about all of that. It's definitely something you could try. And, if it doesn't work, again, then we still need to figure out what's going on under the hood, root cause of why you're not getting that sleep. So there are a lot of other supplements that we can try as well that are helpful for sleep. But like I said, most of the time I want to get to the root cause of it. But we'll talk on another podcast more about, about certain supplements that are helpful for sleep, and melatonin in particular we're going to talk about. But I just want to wrap up for today, again, reiterating and going over that 3-2-1 cycle. If you don't remember anything else, remember that 3 hours before bed you want to limit food or stop eating food. 2 hours before, stop drinking any liquids, and 1 hour before, stop any screens or any blue light. And just do those simple things. Again, it's free. Those are free things to do. This podcast is free. This information is free. Take the free stuff and really try it. Put it into practice and see if it helps. And do it consistently. Start, if you're staying up late, past that 10 o'clock, start just moving the dial 15 minutes ahead, just 15 minutes ahead, and get into the habit of trying to go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Make it, put it on your calendar, make it a priority, make yourself a priority, because it's super important that if you are getting an adequate amount of sleep or good amount of sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you're going to feel better and you're going to be better for everyone else. So thank you so much again for joining me for today's episode 015. Again, you can find me on YouTube. You can subscribe to that YouTube channel. I would really appreciate if you did that. I'd really appreciate if you hit the notifications bell so that you're always notified of any videos that I put up. I'm going to be putting up another exercise video coming up here next week as well. And then I really would appreciate if you listened to us or followed us on Apple or Spotify on the podcast. I would love that and would so appreciate it. I do hope you tune in to the next podcast, where I'm going to be talking about something very interesting. I think you'll find very interesting. It's mouth taping. And mouth taping also goes along with helping your sleep. And so it's something I've been doing actually for a couple of years, maybe longer, 3 years maybe. And I've noticed a huge improvement in my sleep as well. So it's kind of a controversial topic. And so I hope you tune in to the next episode, which will be out probably in a week or so. And we'll talk all about mouth taping, and I'll even bring in the mouth tape I use, which I'm not sponsored by. I don't get any money by it. I wish I did, but I've been using it for a long, long time. So I hope you tune into that. That'll be kind of a fun and interesting topic. And so again, thanks so much for listening today. Please leave any comments that you have below, any questions or anything. You can always find me. I'll leave all my information in the description box below. Again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye.